Chronic pain is one of the most common symptoms of nervous system dysregulation. You activate the same neural pathways whether you're experiencing physical pain, emotional pain, or social pain like rejection. Chronic pain can understandably cause strong emotional responses like fear, anger, anxiety, and despair. Now, chronic pain doesn't light up just one area of the brain. It activates a network through several different areas in the brain. One of these areas happens to be the frontal part of the brain, which has to do with thoughts and beliefs. And this is why how you think about or what you believe about your pain will have an effect on your perception of it. Other areas in the brain that are involved are the amygdala, deep down in the survival brain, and also areas called the ACC and the insula. Now, these areas aren't just to do with pain perception, they're also to do with emotional regulation and stress regulation. Whether a sensation is viewed as a threat or not depends if the amygdala thinks it has enough resources to cope with it. So whilst pain can be unpleasant, if you feel that you have enough resources to cope, you won't activate as much as that neural network in the brain when the pain sensations come in. And this can actually decrease the intensity and the duration of the pain. Studies have shown that just by changing thoughts and beliefs around pain, we change the activation that we see in the brain. But when the survival brain views pain as a threat and it leads to more fear, anxiety, anger, and despair, the intensity and the duration both increase. When we experience nervous system dysregulation or chronic stress, we see an activation in the ACC and the insula. And these regions are also involved with detecting pain. So under times of heightened stress and dysregulation, we can get an activation in these shared pathways. Dysregulation doesn't just affect the nervous system, it also affects the immune system and the endocrine system. So we can have an activation of pain through many mind-body systems, such as the immune system leading to inflammation, which causes more pain. We also know that with nervous system dysregulation, we can experience dissociation from our body. Research has shown that this can actually change the circulation in that area, and that can have a flow-on effect to our levels of pain as well. So it's really helpful if you can examine the thoughts and beliefs that you have, because they have a powerful top-down influence on your mind-body system and how that affects pain. We can't separate the brain and the body when it comes to perceiving pain. Things that other people might have told you who've had a similar injury about how they never got better may make you feel worse about your own pain. A health professional who wasn't aware of modern pain science telling you that you have the spine of a 70-year-old when they look at your X-ray may also drive your fear. It is normal to have some age-related changes on imaging. It's just like having a wrinkle or a grey hair. Or the other term that's commonly used is that you have a slipped disc. Immediately that can create fear as we see our discs as being something unstable, when the truth is they're very firmly attached to the adjacent vertebrae and can't really go anywhere. But what we see is by using the word slip disc, we get scared to move. This can create fear, it can change our movement patterns, and it can keep driving this pain cycle. It's also helpful to look at the language we use with ourselves. We might have thoughts like, it's not fair, nobody else has to experience pain like this. And this can drive our fight response of our nervous system. Or maybe we have the belief of, there's no use trying anything, I'm always going to have to live with this pain. And this can create strong feelings of despair that makes it hard to come out of that slump that you may feel chronic pain takes you down into. So we know that pain is a biopsychosocial event, which means biological processes matter. You may have had an injury to start with, but the tissue is healed and now the pain persists. The psychological part is how the thoughts, beliefs, and stress levels that you have around the pain affect it. And also the social part can be other stresses, like what's going on in your relationships or what might be happening with work. All of these factors contribute to the level of pain that you'll experience, and all of them can influence your nervous system. So biopsychosocial factors can make your nervous system more sensitive, or what we might like to think of as being more protective. So a signal comes in from the body, and when it travels up to the brain, we see a large network activate when there's chronic pain. This is like if you typed an X on the keyboard of your computer, on your screen you may see 10 X's come up. The system has become sensitized. So to break this cycle, it's important that we examine the beliefs and thoughts that we have around our pain, and if they align with the modern pain science. For example, pain doesn't always equal tissue damage. Sometimes it's being driven by our nervous system and other factors. And we can reflect on how those biopsychosocial factors might be influencing our pain. If we're experiencing pain and also a lot of stress around that, if we believe that we have enough resources to cope with the pain, we know that that nervous system dysregulation will decrease and we'll experience less fear, anxiety, and despair. So this is where learning to regulate our nervous system can actually help us manage our levels of pain. It's not to say that pain is just in our heads, but we know that there are shared pathways between the regions that are experiencing emotions and also experiencing pain. Self-regulation comes when we don't perceive sensations necessarily as a threat. And much of this regulation can come when we activate the vagus nerve, which not only brings that self-regulation and resilience in the heat of the moment, it also plays an anti-inflammatory role, which is another way to help our mind-body system recover from chronic pain. If this is something you'd like to learn more about, I'll pop the details below about our upcoming trainings on the vagus nerve.